Reality star Todd Chrisley is encouraging his daughter, Savannah Chrisley, to fight for her brother. She took care of one, is estranged from another, and had a falling out with the third. So, who did she need to fight for? Keep reading for more details. When Julie and Todd Chrisley headed to jail, Savannah Chrisley was loaded with responsibilities. She not only had to work, but she also had custody of her two younger siblings. Savannah was now in charge of Grayson and Chloe, while also fighting for her parents to be released. During all of this, she remained close to her grandma, Nanny Faye, and was determined to make life seamless for her brother and sister. She had long been estranged from her oldest brother, Kyle, and had a contentious relationship with Chase Chrisley. The two were once very close, even having a television show, but that all ended. Savannah has admitted that she does not trust Chase and fears for his life. Todd does not like any tension between his children, so their split has been very hard for him. In the season finale of Back to Reality, which has showcased the family handling Todd and Julie's incarceration, the patriarch gets firm. The series follows the couple's release from prison as well, and he makes it clear that Savannah will make it work. Although he knows that Savannah is done with Chase, he does not care. That is his child, and he will always be welcome, so she had better get her head on right. Todd Chrisley adds that Savannah cannot act like a saint when she won't even fight for her brother. Chase had been struggling with addiction and was getting into some trouble. Therefore, Todd was not willing to give up on him. Viewers were thrilled that Todd spoke up and out regarding Chase and took a stance. This is what they had been waiting for. While Savannah Chrisley raised Grayson and Chloe, it seemed that Chase Chrisley was MIA. When they would go on family vacations, he was not around, and many wondered why. Then he was hospitalized and arrested, and it was clear he was struggling. The tension has ended between the siblings, but Todd Chrisley wants Savannah to step up. Fans love seeing Todd with a strong stance and felt it was a long time coming. It was also cited that Savannah needed to treat Nanny Faye better, but Todd Chrisley does not seem to acknowledge that in this clip. The Chrisley family has always lived in the public eye, their lives unfolding like chapters of a complicated book. Between the legal battles, the televised dramas, and the quiet moments behind closed doors, they have faced storms that would break even the strongest families. Yet, when the weight of it all threatened to silence them, Todd Chrisley, patriarch, father, and man of unyielding will, planted his words like seeds in Savannah's heart. He told her to fight, not just for herself, but for her brother. What followed was not just a daughter trying to honor her father's wishes. It was a test of loyalty, perseverance, and the unshakable bond that had always made the Chrisleys more than just a family in front of cameras. A father's enduring voice even while serving his sentence, Todd's influence remained alive in every corner of the family's life. His words carried power, the kind that could ignite both memory and determination. For Savannah, it wasn't just advice. It was a directive, a command that she carried like a torch in the darkest of nights. Her brother needed her. He was unraveling, lost in a swirl of public scrutiny, personal doubts, and a loneliness that came from feeling misunderstood by the world. Todd knew his son's weaknesses, but he also knew his daughter's strength. He urged her to stand firm, to take up the mantle of protector, motivator, and sometimes even savior. It wasn't easy. Savannah was already holding the weight of responsibility that felt larger than her own life. But when Todd's voice came through, steady, commanding, filled with the unmistakable edge of a father who never accepted defeat, she understood there was no room to collapse. The brother adrift their brother's struggles had grown visible. Behind every smile on social media was the shadow of someone battling doubts that weren't easily silenced. The pressures of family reputation, the constant commentary from strangers, and the heavy legacy of being a Chrisley had chipped away at his sense of self. He withdrew at times, slipping into silence that scared her more than his words ever could. Yet, she knew that in those silences, he was listening. Listening for the echo of guidance, for the tether that would keep him from drifting too far. That tether, Todd insisted, had to be her. Savannah became his lifeline. Each decision, each small step forward, was measured not just by what he needed, but by what she was willing to sacrifice. And she was willing to sacrifice plenty. Her own dreams, her own relationships, her own quiet hours. All of it bent beneath the weight of her father's charge. The fight beyond cameras. The world knew the Chrisleys as a television family. Sharp, dramatic, endlessly entertaining. But the fight Todd asked of Savannah was never meant for public display. It was not staged for ratings, nor polished for prime time. It was raw, unfiltered, and often brutal in its reality. She confronted her brother when his mistakes threatened to spiral. She defended him when outsiders mocked or condemned him. She stood between him and the worst versions of himself, a shield crafted not from perfection, but from relentless love. There were nights when she broke down alone, overwhelmed by the impossibility of it all. But she always rose the next morning, remembering Todd's voice. To fight for her brother meant to believe when he couldn't. To hope when he had given up. To carry both their names when his shoulders buckled beneath the weight. A daughter's transformation. What Todd may not have fully realized was how his directive would transform Savannah herself. Fighting for her brother meant discovering parts of her strength she had never needed before. It meant setting aside the fear of public judgment and leaning into resilience. She became more than just a sister. She became a mentor, a strategist, and at times a warrior against unseen battles. Each confrontation, each decision, hardened her resolve. Where once she may have wavered under pressure, she now stood unmoved, anchored in the mission her father had given her. The transformation was not without cost. Her personal life frayed at the edges. Friends fell away, unable to understand the burden she carried. Opportunities passed her by because her focus could not stray. Yet, in losing those pieces, she gained something stronger. An unbreakable sense of purpose. Todd's legacy through action. Though absent physically, Todd remained present through the ripple of his words. By urging Savannah to fight for her brother, he ensured that his values of family loyalty and unyielding perseverance lived on. His legacy was not confined to television episodes or tabloid headlines. It was written into the everyday battles his daughter waged on behalf of her brother. For Todd, control had always been a part of life. In prison, that control was stripped away. Yet he found a way to extend it, not through dominance, but through inspiration. He could no longer shield his children directly, but by lighting a fire in Savannah, he secured protection for his son. It was a different kind of leadership, one forged in absence rather than presence, and it proved that Todd's influence, for better or worse, would outlast any circumstance. The weight of public opinion outside the family circle, the world continued to judge. Strangers wrote headlines, dissected every decision, and painted the family as symbols of scandal rather than people wrestling with private struggles. The noise was deafening at times, but Savannah learned to filter it out. She understood that fighting for her brother was not about convincing the public to see them differently. It was about ensuring that, within their own circle, love was louder than shame, and unity was stronger than division. Still, the criticism stung. It stung when she was accused of enabling. It stung when her efforts were mocked as desperate or delusional. Yet she carried on, not because the critics mattered, but because Todd's words demanded she focus on the only opinion that did: the survival and redemption of her brother. Small victories. The fight was not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it was in the small victories: a phone call answered, a night without regret, a smile that seemed genuine rather than forced. These small signs reminded her that her brother was still reachable, still salvageable, still worth the fight. Each small victory was a reassurance that Todd's directive was not in vain. Each moment of connection pushed back against the darkness threatening to consume him. And each time she saw her brother take a step forward, she felt the silent applause of her father, even if it was only in her heart. The toll and the triumph as time stretched on, the toll became undeniable. Savannah's body grew weary, her emotions strained to the breaking point. But exhaustion did not mean surrender. She had learned that true strength was not about never breaking, but about breaking and still choosing to rebuild. The triumph was not in defeating every obstacle, but in refusing to abandon the fight. Her brother, though still carrying scars, began to stand a little taller. He began to trust her voice, even when he doubted his own. He began to understand that no matter how far he strayed, someone would always pull him back.